there.
All right. I may have done something correctly. But anyway, welcome to the How to Manage Your Fixed Capital Outlay Grant webinar for it says 27 on your numbers, but basically the time that will take place between July 1st of 2026 and June 1st of 2028. My name is Sam Brown. I am the Arts Administrator here at the Division of Arts and Culture. And I'm joined by Dr. Terry Apstein, our Assistant Director. And hopefully, as we go through this journey, we'll answer a lot of the questions that you may have about having a grant with us and how to make that work for you. Throughout this webinar, please remain muted. You can ask any questions that you may have in the chat, which I don't have access to currently. I can't see it anywhere. But Terry will, and she hopefully will be able to give you whatever answers you may have. And if not, at the end, there will be time for questions and answers then, and I'll gladly answer them at that point. Here we go. I think. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Today we're going to basically answer some questions about how to manage your grant with us. I'm going to start off with basically how you submit the information that we're going to need to create your grant award agreement or your contract. That will be your budget and your scope of work. Basically, we'll go through the process of what it takes to get that contract executed. And when you get your copy of your executed contract, then you'll receive from me your restrictive covenant, which basically says that the material that you're using and buying using our funding, you will have and use for the purposes of the agreement for 5 years after that. And other exciting things that we do throughout the course of your grant. On the screen is your timeline. Like I said, the grant itself will begin on the 1st of July. Which is already passed, obviously. But every expenditure that you will make for the scope of work and budget must happen after July 1 and before the end of your grant. So nothing that you've done previous to this month can count towards our grant as far as funding is concerned. As soon as you possibly can, including today, you can go ahead and start submitting your scope of work and your budget to me. You send it directly to me. And yeah, as soon as possible, we need to go ahead and get that done so we can get you a signed and executed contract. There will be quarterly reports that are due in October, January, and April, and July. October, January, April, July of the years. And for some reason, I have July still as the 26th. I missed that one, but it is July 30th of 2027. You don't have one due today. By January 31st of 2028, all contracts must be signed and executed, but please don't just wait until January to try and get that in, because until we have the contracts, until we have the restrictive covenants, we can't start paying you guys any money for anything done with the grant. All right, a couple other dates on there. First things first, project filed. Okay, you're going to want to create a file and maintain your records where everything having to do with each grant that you get with us. So if you already have a different one, then this new grant needs a new file. You're going to include things like your grant award agreement, all your documentation for procurement and financials and like deliverables, all the information that has anything to do with the grants. Please go ahead and start a file and start putting the records and stuff into that file and keep them for at least 5 years after you close your grant with us. And closing your grant means you've requested all of your monies and you've submitted all of your reports and everything has been satisfactory and is closed out. And then from that moment for 5 years, we need you to keep up with the records. Okay. Um, right after that, we're gonna need, and I mean, hopefully you guys have already started working on it, but we're gonna need you to log on to DOS Grants and create a profile for your organization and for yourself. One of the things that's going to be really important is make sure that you're using your own account and not someone else's, because should they leave, they're not available, you can't log in, you're trying to do something. It's you want your own individual accounts so that you can be in charge of the things that you need to put in and hold on to. Um, let's see, make sure your organization profile is up to date. That's extremely important. If you need to add people, you can do all of that on dosgrants.com. Just go and click manage staff and you can take care of that there. All right, this is what it looks like when you go in, select my grants, go to the grant of yours, just enter in your grant number, and then you go select details next to your grant when it shows up, and you'll be able to manage everything from there. This is always also what it would look like if you need to add staff for whatever reason. You need an accountant to get a hold of it. You guys hired a new grant manager, somebody leaves, somebody else is taking a spot. You'd go through there, find your organization, click manage staff, and then add new staff member. It all shows up on the screen. Right now, this is all cropped, but it'll show up on the screen if you need it. And of course, as you're doing it, if you have any issues or any questions, reach out to me. I'll gladly handle, walk you through what you need to do. Yeah, this is basically make sure that you are selecting yes after you've included all the information, and then go ahead and add the staff to them. All right, this is what your grant records details page will look like every time you log on. You go to, you see at the top, it says project overview, and I have your grant number, your organization, the name of the grant itself, the period, the award amount, all the information that you need. And under that, you can also see there's payments, change requests, agreements and amendments, progress reports, and forms and reports. Here, payments is exactly what it sounds like. Whenever you have completed the required amount of um, information and work with the grant, you can come in and request your payment. Make sure you follow the instructions and do all the things that need to be done there. If something needs to change, like you need an extension, which you can do at 6 months at a time, you come in and this is where you would make that request to make a change like that. Once your contract is done, it'll show up under here. This is where you do your progress reports and things like that. All right, so for the contracts, first thing we're going to need is for you to email me your scope of work and your detailed budget. Email it to me. I'll be the one putting it onto the system. Other grants, you may have put it in the system yourself if you've had other grants with us, but for FCOs, you send it to me and I'll be the one entering that information in. Please be as specific as you can when it comes to the budget and the scope of work. Let us know exactly what it is you plan on doing and exactly how you plan on spending the monies that you get from the division. Oh, and also you want to make sure that you identify the person who will be the main point of contact for the grant. All of this will be a part of your grant award agreement. You'll find all of this is written into your contract. For your budget, make sure that you don't include things that are not allowable. All right. Um, General operating expenses, for example, anything that, it takes to run your organization, salaries, personnel, mortgage, operating overhead, that type of stuff, that's not allowable. Anything that's done that's not written specifically into your scope of work. If you're supposed to be fixing on the roof, don't tell us anything about the back door. Don't we're not here to supply, money for things that aren't a part of what it is that you have received the funding for. Okay. Um, Other things on here, we do not pay for lobbying or any type of thing like that. And also, very important, make sure that all the costs are inside of the grant period. As in, if you know work was done in May of this year, please don't report it trying to get reimbursement for it because that was before the grant period. Further, additional non-allowables, we don't pay for debts, contingencies, travel. We don't pay for anything that's discriminatory in its nature. If people are not allowed in because of sex, race, creed, disability, age, that type of stuff, we can't give you any money for it. That's not what we're here for. We also don't do regranting or any kind of political contributions or donations. Please don't try to use any of the money that you receive for that type of stuff. All right, your scope of work is a very detailed description of what it is that you're going to be spending the money on. Right? You may be this may be a part of a bigger project, so we need to know specifically what that particular, the particular funds that we're providing will be paying for. At the bottom, you see some examples, which, you know, you're going to be doing work that includes replacing stage rigging, replace lighting, including lighting board, replace the sound system, replace curtains, replace seatings. These are all type of things that we want to know what it is the work, the money is going to be going towards, and give us as much information about that as possible so that we can put that into the contract and everybody be on the same page. All right. Once you've submitted your scope of work and your budget, you got it to me as soon as possible. I will draft a contract for you and then send it through our process, which includes going by legal to make sure everything's okay. Once it's done, and then of course, throughout the process, there may be some changes that need to be made, but once it's done, I'll be sending it forward to you so that you can go ahead and get your signatures done with on your side. And then as soon as you get those done, then we can sign them here and get them executed. Again, all contracts must be executed no later than January 31st of 2028. What exactly is a grant award agreement? And you'll hear me using that interchangeably with contract. And it's really the contract for the funding that you and the Division of Arts and Culture will sign. Essentially, you know, it's going to contain your scope of work and your budget. It's going to talk about what deliverables are expected of you to, prove that you have done the work that should be associated with receiving the monies for that particular time period. It includes a length of agreement, reporting requirements, all of that good stuff. It's a contract. All right, now what is a restrictive covenant? Basically, a restrictive covenant is you agreeing that for 5 years after the grant has been completed, you will be using the building, land, whatever it is that we have paid for. You will be using that particular location for the purposes that you agree to in the grant award agreement. You're going to need to have that signed and get it notarized, and then you're going to have it filed with your local clerk of court, the clerk of county court. Um, just so you know, the very first payment, we're going to need to see a copy of your recorded restrictive covenant before we can submit any payment to you. All right, procurement requirements. Basically, anything not exceeding 35,000, they have different rules. Pretty much if it's up to 2,500, you don't need any kind of competition. You can just do it at your discretion. You can just agree to pay whatever it is. But any kind of purchase or contract amounts between 2,500 and 3,500, you need an informal competition. And but it can be bought by procured by things like purchase order or an acceptance of the proposal, whatever it is that's appropriate in that situation. Is when we get past $35,000 that things start to get, a little bit more interesting. They may be procured by either a formal invitation to bid, request for proposals, or invitation to negotiate, and may be procured by, the purchase order and other appropriate procurement document. Please note, once we get that big, all contract documentation must be reviewed and approved by the division prior to execution. So any contracts that you enter into during the course of and during the period of the grant for the purposes of using the grant funding to help, do the things that you're agreeing to do, we need to take a look at them before you go ahead and enter into those contracts with other people. All right. Encumbrance requirements. Basically, you got to stick to your scope of work. We're going to need to know the timeline. what you're going to be doing, how long it's going to take, what exactly is going to be going on with it. And then, basically just make sure that you got to be able to prove that you have done the things that you have said you're going to do. You're going to need to make sure you provide that documentation. Okay. Reports will be due on a quarterly basis. Again, that's October, January, April, and July, starting this October 30th. And then your final report will be due 30 days after the end of the grant period. Now, if you do need to extend your agreement by 6 months or that, one or more times, you will then be responsible for it submitting as a part of your amendment of progress reports during that time period that you have signed on for. And then at the end of whenever that extended period ends, say it's September 1st, 30 days after that September 1st is when your final report will be due. Okay. Um, Basically what the final reports are going to be doing is what kind of project activities have you been, have you accomplished at all? Even if you haven't accomplished any, if you haven't gotten any work done, we need to know that you haven't done any work within that quarter. Um, Please make sure I think you need to attach some documentation before you can submit it. And on the page on this screen is some of the acceptable things that, we we feel are appropriate and would like to see. Basically, any meeting minutes, correspondence relating to the project, any photos of work progress, we really love to see those. Basically, if you have incurred any expenses whatsoever, please go ahead and update your expenditure log when you're doing your quarterly reports. Even if you're not yet ready to ask for payment because you haven't reached that point yet, but go ahead and log in and document that you have already done some expenditures. This is how you do it, and this is what it should look like when you go ahead and click on the expenditure log from your grant records details page. Um, you come to this screen, you select add new record, and then just follow the directions, and it's pretty self-explanatory. But if you find that you have any issues, of course, reach out to me. Um, One thing that's kind of unique about our system is that we require either an invoice or a transaction. You don't have to have both, but you got to have at least one of them. And then you need to include the payment date and then the payee. And one of the things that is so important is when you see transaction total and grant funds, if you submit an expenditure and the check itself was written for $1,000, but only 250 was grant funds, transaction total is $4,000. It need to say, let us, see that and know, that way we know everything's matching up. But if you only, 250 of it should come from the grants to be reimbursed, let us know that there. Okay. So transaction total and grants funds don't have to be the same, but transaction total definitely has to match up with the invoice, and all that stuff, what it actually was. We need to have that there. Okay. All right. When it's time for you to ask for payment, you're going to go to grants, dosgrants.com, and then you're going to go down to the part where you saw payments and then you click on the payment request form. All right. The payment increments are going to be for when you're 30% done with the project, 60%, and then 100% finished with the project. You guys are going to get 4 deliverables. The first one will be requiring very simple stuff. Make sure that you take the quiz after this webinar and pass it with 100%. Um, Submit your restrictive covenant. I think this is on another page that I'm coming to soon. I may be jumping the gun. But basically, whenever you're having the payment request, just make sure you select the deliverable, fill out the information, and then hit submit at the bottom. But you're going to have to make sure you attach documentation, otherwise it will not let you submit. And you see it in bold. Please understand that payments can take between 8 to 10 weeks for a fixed capital outlay. Okay. All right. Oh, I did. I thought I would go over payment one next. So payment one, the deliverables for the first payment is going to be the certificate of completion. You're going to need to show us that you have a contract with an architect or a contractor, but basically someone's going to be doing the work that you have received these funds for. We're going to need photographic documentation of an installed project, identification sign that has the grant funding acknowledgement, which is our logo, and or a statement that'll be on the next slide, I believe. And then, of course, a copy of your recorded restrictive covenant. No, it's not the next slide. The next slide is the payment to documentation. And basically, once you start getting into getting your project actually getting moving forward and getting the work done, once you reach 30%, that's when you can ask for your second payment. We're going to expect to see the completed application and certificate for payment, the 702, schedule of contract, 703, or basically anything along those lines. Um, from your contractor, letting, it's a way of them saying, hey, we've completed this percent of the job. And then that's part of what you submit to us to let us know that it's okay to go ahead and release those funds so you can pay the people that have done 30% of their job, of the job. This is what the management quiz should look like. It'll have your name on there, your score. The date's wrong, but trust me, it'll be right on your the one that you get. All right, and here's the funding credit sign I was telling you about. Basically, we expect you to have somewhere on there, sponsored in part by the state of Florida, Department of State, and or our logo. You'll see on this example down here and on the examples on the next slide, it's our old logo. But I can provide our new logo, just if you ask for it, it's easy for me to get it to you. Here are some more examples. If you look at them carefully, you'll see our logo and or you'll see the statement about this is funded in part by or sponsored in part by. And here's our logos. Like I said, if you need the logo, you don't already have it, just ask me for it, and I'll gladly send you the link that includes all of the proper ways to utilize our logo. And this is an example of the 702, what it would look like. And here's a 703. You notice how, you need to have a certain percentage, and there we go. And the schedule of contract values. Okay. This is the type of stuff that I'm used to seeing all the time. If it's something else, but it's comparable, of course, we can accept that. If you're the person you work, the team or people you're working with doesn't do this, then they should have something different. All right. That should say. This is about, the payments three and four. Um, it says two and three. I'm not sure why I didn't correct that yet, but payment four is about you're going to need your certificate of substantial completion, basically letting us know the whole thing is done. And then, of course, we're going to need to see pictures of the project. We want to know that you've done a fantastic job and how great everything looks and how wonderful you've added to the state of arts and culture in the state of Florida. So please, include that information in your final payment request. And then this is what the 704 looks like. And of course, it's the final documentation, affidavit of completion, just letting us know this is the work has been done. This is the work that we agreed to. And yep, looking forward to it. All righty. One weird thing that we have to make sure we talk about is the Florida Single Audit Act. I'm not really sure how to explain it, except to just say, basically, if you are in receipt of 750,000 or more state or federal dollars, we need to have you basically fill out a report for us and submit it. And this is how you go in. You find your organization, click on Single Audit Act, and make sure that your fiscal year end in the system in the right way. And then, yeah, you submit that report and fill it out for us and give it to us. Okay. And one last thing, if you're going to be traveling internationally, we ask that you let us know at least 30 days or as soon as possible that you plan on going. And we're going to need to know, the time, the date, and location. Just let us know what's happening when you decide that you need to travel internationally while you have a grant with us during that grant period. And here's a little language you can find on our website about the notice of international travel, its importance, and what our expectations are. All right, contract amendments. Now, I talked a little bit about this earlier, but if you need to make any changes to your scope of work, to your budget, basically, if you're finding that the budget that you thought was going to work isn't working, if you need to extend the grant date, these are all reasons why we are willing to give you an amendment. We're not willing to give you an amendment because the fact that you may not have really fully understood when you read the requirements, or if you were supposed to be having, some other stuff happen and then you weren't able to raise enough money for it, whatever. Basically, when you need to have an amendment, reach out to me. Say, hey, I'm having this go on. And then I'll say yay or nay. We'll give you an amendment for that. And then I'll give you instructions on how to go into and make that request, or I might make it myself, depends on the situation, whatever be easiest or best in that situation. But all amendments must happen before 30 days before the end of the grant, at least 30 days before the end of your grant period. Okay. And all of them, yeah, must be signed by an authorizing official. It's just like the contracts, however your organization gets things signed, make sure that you have a plan and a path for it to be signed by all the people who need to sign it and get it all done at least 30 days before the end of the grant period. Okay. And when you are in non-compliance, people who have not satisfied, the grantees who have not satisfied our requirements will be put into non-compliance. We'll do that for when you don't meet your deadlines, when you don't submit the required documentation. Like I ask you for something, you don't give it. You don't complete your work in accordance with the scope of work that you gave us. You've done things that just, aren't the things you're supposed to be doing. And when you're in non-compliance, from not just want to just it will not just apply to that grant, it will apply to the entire organization, which may or may not have more grants with us. And so all the organization for all of the grants will have the payments of funds suspended. You won't be able to request a payment for any additional grants. You won't be able to apply for any additional grants. You may have to, if you don't resolve the non-compliance, in a timely fashion, you may have to return a portion or the entire amount of the monies that have been given to you. The grant itself might be terminated, and you may be prohibited from applying for future grants within the Department of State. So let's not get into non-compliance. And if we do, let's get out of it as soon as possible. All right, a few reminders. No expenditures may be made before or after the grant period. Very important. Payments are based on the completion of the entire project as described and budgeted in your grant award agreement, and all documentation that you submit should be reflecting your progress on the project. Please maintain a grant file, keeping basically all the records, invoices, receipts, everything for at least 5 years following the close of the grant. And we are here to help. It says contact your grant manager. That's me. Immediately if there are any changes to your organization or grant, or if you have any questions or anything that you need to related to grant related stuff, please give me a call or shoot me an email and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. Um, this is, it looked like I did my email right for once. I often mess that one up. And now is the time for questions if you have any. Do we have any questions?
I have a question, please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
When you're doing the scope of work and you're doing the um, listing out the what it is that you're doing, the project that we have is multifaceted with different construction facets of it. Uh, when we're, say, for instance, building a specific building, do we need to be breaking down the budget into like concrete, um, roofing materials, siding? How far do we need to break that down?
That is a great level right there. We need to know how much you plan on spending on concrete, on, on the siding or the other stuff that you mentioned. So yeah, we need to know that information. Terry?
And we have a spreadsheet with the categories that we can share with you if you're interested. Just shoot Sam an email. Typically, it would be doors and windows, finishes, special construction, um, general requirements, concrete, metals. I may have missed a few, but at that level, we don't need you to tell us that your roof is going to have, 45 beams and
Right.
50 million sheets of plywood. But if you're working with a general contractor, usually their scheduled contract values mirrors pretty closely what are in the categories that we're looking for.
Thank you, Terry.
Sure.
Hi, will we be receiving a copy of this deck via email?
You can if you ask for it. We will make it available on our website. I'm not,
Okay.
exactly
I put the
certain when it
link
will be. Yeah,
in the
okay.
chat for where the deck will be located on our
There it
website.
is.
Hi, Sam. Can you give us your phone number to reach? I saw that you provided the email. Thank you, but wanted to get a phone number from you as well.
Absolutely. So sorry about that. It's 850-245-6459. That's
Thank
eight
you.
five zero 245 6459. All right. Anyone else? All right. Like I said, Terry, I didn't get a hold of, I don't really see how I can get to the chat, but did we have any questions that didn't get answered
We
there?
didn't have any. We just had the one for your phone number, and I've added your phone number there as well.
Okay, perfect. All righty. Well, it sounds like it's time for us to go ahead and
Can we have your email again, please? Can you put that in the chat?
There you go.
Okay,
That deal.
thank you.
no problem at all. All right. Was that the last one? Anything else? Well, thank you
Hi,
all.
Sam.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said, hi, Sam. This is Stan.
Hey, Stan, how you doing, man?
Hey, it's a beautiful day here in paradise.
Hey, isn't that wonderful? Um, all right. Well, if we don't have anything else, thank you all so much for joining and sitting with me through this. And forgive me for whatever mistakes I've made. And looking forward to hearing from and working with all of you. Y'all have a wonderful day.